Leadership is important in any organization. In a nonprofit, there are certain factors that make leadership a little bit different than in the for-profit sector. For one thing, especially in smaller organizations, you're leading people who are either not paid very much at all or are not paid anything. So money's not a motivating factor for those people. The reason for them being there is because they believe in the cause, or they want to give something back to an organization that helped them, or for some volunteers it's a social thing. You know, it gives them an opportunity to get out of the house. I mean, we have volunteers here who are in their 70s, 80s, and this is part of their life, you know, coming here. So when you're managing people like that, you have to find different things to motivate them. It's not the salary.
I'm an executive director of a 8-person, $1 million organization. And I feel like my mission as executive director is to host the container in which the best work can get done. If I wanted to do stuff that was my vision and make people do stuff, I'd be in business. That's the whole structure. I make you do this because I pay you. In nonprofits, people come and volunteer and they want to do stuff together. It's called voluntary association. And so I view my job maybe not as a cruise ship tour director, but something fairly close in that I'm trying to host the right events, the right meetings, the right management of staff, so that the group itself can kind of decide what's in the center and what needs to get done. And then people can kind of self-select to do the stuff they're best at, in which case you're maximizing your resources. And since in nonprofits we're under-resourced, I think you need to really create an environment in which people are doing the best work they can and doing the things they feel most passionate about. I think nonprofits get in a lot of trouble when they're like, these are all the things we should do. And I think as a nonprofit, well, mostly you rely on volunteers. It should be the things, what are you passionate about doing? What must be done? That's when you really get people humming. And so I think my job is to help the group as a group and individuals as individuals figure out what they feel most passionate about and what must be done.
Something else that I think is important for a leader to do is to provide the right environment for staff to help them flourish. So that's about understanding your staff. Some people like to be given very clear instructions, step by step. Other people like to feel they can use their creativity. So if you give them the bare bones of what's required and say, okay, now go off and do it, come back and see me at this point, that point, and that point, they appreciate that. And having an environment of safety and creativity, I think an awful lot of success comes down to making mistakes. To help staff learn, and if you want to keep talent in the organization, you want to give staff the opportunity to learn. Part of learning is making mistakes. So having an environment where they feel safe in knowing that mistakes are okay and that we have a way of fixing mistakes is so crucial. If people feel that they're going to be hauled over the coals about it, they might lose their job, they're less likely to take risks. And one of the things that I've always liked about nonprofits is that, and I don't know how true this is my philosophy, is that we are more able to take risks because in a sense we have less to lose. We don't have shareholders. We don't have a lot of money that we can lose. What we are doing is taking risks in order to make our services better, in order to find cures for disease. But we take calculated risks, and that's the way I approach things as a leader. I like to take risks, but as long as we can do it in a manageable way, we do the research, we find out what we can before we do something new. We try and see what the risks are. Where can it possibly go wrong? We consult with people around us, whether it be inside or outside. In terms of expertise, are we missing anything? We brainstorm so that we can find those gaps. And we do as much as we can before we launch something that we've never done before so that the risk is contained. It's still a risk, but it's contained.
I think sometimes nonprofits think that bigger is better, and that, as long as our breakfast gets 100 more people, we'll be doing more. I don't think doing more in the world is always doing better. And I think development can sometimes be a little bit of a treadmill just because it's always bigger, better, faster, more, rather than are we doing the right things with this money? Or talking to your donors about what do you think we should be doing? I think donors get really pissed and you don't retain donors when you treat donors like they're the gas, but you don't want them on the bus, much less telling you where to go, much less in the driver's seat. And I think sometimes as a leader, it's my job to let other people take the wheel sometimes. As long as we've got a strategic plan that kind of tells us how much money we have to spend on gas and whether we're heading west or south.
There's an analogy between being a leader and being a jazz band leader. And there's a classic story of Miles Davis, one of the best jazz musicians of all time. And he used to go into the studio, he would there and then come up with a song. He'd write the melody, he'd come up with the chord progressions, and he'd take it into the band, and he'd say, right, this is what we're going to play. He didn't tell them how to do it. He gave them the basic structure. And that's what a leader does. It gives the basic structure. This is what our objectives are. This is what I expect you to do. This is when I expect you to come to me or go to other people. But the rest is up to you to do. So Miles and his bands made this amazing music because he gave them the freedom within certain boundaries to just do what they do best. And that's what leadership is about.